All right. Let's see. So, good morning, everyone. Tuned in. So, yesterday we did a few problems. 3 easy, 1 medium. I realized as well that there's no hard ones in this. So, I'll have to find a way to incorporate some hard ones. I guess I could use a list too, as well as there's different study plans you can do. So my main account, I do the top interview 150, but for this we'll do the 75. Okay, so the goal is today is 2 easy, 2 mediums, hopefully. Okay, so we will get started with the reversing of vowels. Reverse vowels of a string. Given a string S, reverse all the vowels in the string and return it. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and they can appear in both lower and upper cases more than once. Okay, so the first thing we would do is probably have a way to store the vowels. So we'll need a way to store the lowercase and the upper cases. Yep. Okay, first example, S equals ice cream with some upper and lower cases. So the vowels would be I, C, or I, E, A. So replace the I with an A, the E with an E, E with an E, and then the M, the I with an A. Okay, LeetCode. Okay. First thing we want to do is store the vowels that will be used. So we're gonna let vowels and string equal not having autocomplete, man. And we are going to need these in uppercase too, since it could be a mix. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we have the vowels. Okay. So S, which is a parameter, and the word that we're gonna be looping through, we probably want that to be an array of characters as well. So we had something similar. I actually don't know if I go back it will save. Let me. It wasn't merge. Okay, this one. No, it wasn't this one. Okay, so here was this one where we had two words, but because we were going to iterate over the word, we changed them into an array of characters. So we could probably do the same thing here as well. So we have our vowels that we're going to be checking for. Now we want to have our characters. So we can do string characters. And that's going to just be an array of S. All right. And then we probably want to do our first loop where we get probably just we'll get the vowels that are already in the word, since pretty much that's all we care about is the vowels. Okay, so we probably should rename this because I want to use this for another one. Vowels and string, and we'll make it an empty array. Let's just make it characters. So we're gonna have an array of characters. It's not characters, an array of character. So we have what we're checking for and how we're gonna store it. So now we're gonna get the vowels that are already, get the vowels in string. So for characters and strings character. And then we're gonna check what do we want to check? We want to check if our vowels contain a string character. So we could do something like if vowels contains and then what we want to check for is our S. So the word that is passed in, we're changing it to an array of characters. So we want to check this if there's our vowel in our string character. And then if there is, we want to put it in our empty array. So if it does contain it, then we put it in our vowels and strings. So we're going to append the character. Okay, so this would give us a list of all the vowels in the string that is passed in. Then we need to write the word again, but then only flip the vowels around. So we would do that in like reverse. Since we have this array, we know which order the reverse would be in. Let's try. So if I do Justin, or let's do Chris Brown, the vowels would be I, O. Okay, that wasn't a good example. So CHROSBRIWN. So we've gotten our vowels. We need to now loop. So we'll need a pointer for our new loop. So what we can do is for I and so we can use the word our strings character as our limit to our loop, since we don't want to loop more than what we have to. Reuse the count of this. So when we loop, we want to check if our vowels are contained in our strings character. And then we'll use our pointer I to keep track of the index. And then if it is we can use our vowels in a string. Okay. Okay. I think I got it. Now it's left to write in the code. Okay. So if our vowels contain our string character, but now we have an index, so we can use I. Now comes the tricky part. So what do we want to do? Our strings and character. My strings and character. Okay, let's do this. Strings and character will equal our vowels and string. We need another way to track index. Vowels and string. We need another way to track this. Index. No, use for a new index. And then we will make it our vowels and string, and then -1. Okay, let's do, and then we can use it here to track. This. So this would be the reversed. So, and then every loop we don't want to increase it, we want to decrease it. So our new index, we want to decrease it every time we loop through this loop. Okay, so this would be us replacing the vowels, replacing vowels with reversed. Okay. So right now we're returning, what are we returning? We're returning a string. So we should have, our string characters should be an array of characters with only the vowels reversed. So we need to change the string, or we need to change the array of characters back into a string. So we can do string and then do string characters, and we should be done. Did we cater for uppercase and lowercase? Yes, we did. Let's try and see what errors we get. Instant contains required a string and string element to be equivalent. 16 if vowels contain instant. Okay. I don't think it can be probably can't be an array. Let's use a set. Can do a set. Let's do this. And then we don't even need to A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U. Cannot find A-E-I-O-U. Let's go for a solution. What? Oh. Store cannot convert to, okay, it needs to be one string, right? Vowels cannot convert character, okay. What line is this? Vowels and string, I think. What am I missing? Line 23, which I don't have. Oh, I do. String cannot convert character. Oh, count. Strings.count. Okay. So I need to get the length of vowels and string, and then subtract 1. Oh, crash. That is wild. Am I missing something? We have our set, and we have our vowel, returning our string into an array. Then we have an empty array to store our Then we have our index to track all vowels. Then we're looping through we're setting using the new index. Then we're adjusting the index. And then we're returning a string. Illegal instructions. That's very nice. Very, very, very informative. Okay. We have our vowels that we're checking. So the for loop, we're checking our string character, which is the S that we're passing through. If our vowel, oh, no. No, we need to check for this, actually, not the string character. Perfect. So our two cases are, the two cases ran perfectly. So the issue was I was checking what we're already looping through, and it was crashing instead of checking the character itself in the array. Okay. So let's submit. (14 milliseconds), which is pretty good, 50%. Okay, let's look at some of the solutions. Subscriber. Swift. So this one uses pointers. Okay, they also use the set. Oops. Wait, how did I do that? That one was too complicated for moi. Oh, this is not it. Wait, which one did I just do? Okay. So this one is also using a pointer and a low and high and checking a boolean to check if it's a vowel or not. This might be in a different language. This is also using indexes. Okay. So this was pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the next one. Can place flowers. I think I've already done this one. Yeah, I've already. I think I did it on my main account. Let me try and get my solution. Can place flowers. Okay, so this one was pretty convoluted. Okay, you have a long flower bed in which some of the plots are planted and some are not. However, flowers cannot be planted in adjacent plots. Given an integer array, a flower bed contains zeros and ones, where 0 means empty and 1 means not empty, and an integer n returns true. If n new flowers can be planted in the flower bed without violating the non-adjacent flower rule, and false otherwise. Okay. So, yeah, I have already done this. So we loop through the flower bed, and I had a counter and then 2 checks. Was flower can be a flower. So the was flower checks the previous, and then the can be flower checks the current. So I was just going through, and I was setting them to true and false depending on what the previous one was. I probably shouldn't have spent time on this. All right, let's go to some of the medium ones. I probably have to come back and redo that one because it could be better, more efficient, and less code. Product of array except self. Given an integer array nums, return an array answer such that answer I is equal to the product of all the elements of nums except nums I. Okay. The product of any prefix or suffix of nums is guaranteed to fit in a 32-bit integer. You must write an algorithm that runs in O n time and without using the division operation. Cool. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You get 24, 12, 8, 6. Okay. So let me just write out some comments because I can't think clearly 4. So the idea is if we're on 1, it's going to be 2 times 3 times 4, which is 24. Then we move on to the next one, which would be 1 times 3 times 4, which would be 12. And then we come here, which will be 3, so it'll be 1 times 2 times 4, which would be 8. And then we come to the fourth one, which would be 1 times 2 times 3, which would be 6. So yeah, it's 24, 12, 8, 6. So what we want to do is just keep track of where we are and then multiply the remaining. So if we're at index 0, we don't want to actually add that. We want to remove that and multiply the rest. Cool story, cool story. So product of array except self. Okay, and then we return it in answers. We're gonna to return it in an array. Okay, first thing first, we always want somewhere to store our answers. I mean, it's gonna be an int, an array of ints. So we do this to let the compiler know that it's an empty array, but we should be expecting length. And then we want to for loop. Then we're gonna do for I, and we're passing in nums. Nums don't count. So we want to loop through the array that we're going through, and we don't want to loop too much times. So we're using the length of the array that's passed to us. Okay. And then we're gonna return our answers, which should be an array of ints. So let's go here. Okay. So we have our I. We probably need another loop. Sorry, whenever you're free. We're gonna need another loop to compare. I mean we're gonna use the same kind of loop. But we don't want our variables to be the same. So if this is I, we're gonna make this J, and then we're gonna compare I to J. Oh man, it's the indentation that is killing me. It's not that the code is bad. I nums.count. Then we do this, and then we'll just compare. If I is not equal to J, that's when we want to do our multiplication. and then we'll use our J index. We can keep track of it that way. But we will need a variable to multiply. So probably here, let's do var number equals 1. And then we can come here inside of our this loop. And we can do number, and then we can multiply equals to nums, and then we can use J as our index, and then we need to, once we do this, we need to append the numbers into our answers. So we would do it outside of this loop. Okay, we do it in a bigger loop. So we can have number. No. What's our loop? Our array is called answers. Answers, and we append number. Okay. So we're passing in our array. We're looping through our array. Then we're looping it again. So this should work. Cannot call value of non-function int. Number, oh, it's not curly square. Okay. Okay, so the test case is passed. Let's go through and submit. Time limit exceeded. Oh no. AKA our shit was trash. It doesn't even give any helpful. Is this the one that failed? I don't get it. This isn't really helpful. So it's probably, I'm seeing -1. So it's probably this number thing I'm doing. Okay, so it's probably this, but I need this. Or is it my appendant? Okay, let me try this. Just change this into an array already. I think it's repeating and then count. I'm not sure. Yeah. Exactly what I needed. Repeating 1 and the count will be nums.count. And then instead of appending, we can do answers. We can use the index and then just leave that to number. Are we going to use I or J? We can use probably I. That's weird because it worked. Okay, well, how many did it pass? 19 out of 24, so there were some edge cases. It's still pretty. Oh, this is a test case. Gotcha. It actually takes a long time to run. Time limit. It's taking too long. like a counter of some kind. It's this, I shouldn't be looping twice. I think that's what's taking so much time. It's this second loop. It's my problem child. Let's look at the description again. The product of any prefix or suffix of nums is guaranteed. Okay. Let's move this out of the loop. I don't think we'll need it, actually. We do need something to track to. So let's put it back. So we have an array that we need to put answers into. So we want to loop for I. We're going to use I in our answers. Do this. This looks like it might work. And then we want to multiply that. This is what we want to multiply by our numbers that was passed in with I. And then we want to return our answers. All right. Wrong. 1, 1, 2, 6. It's not. What? 1, 1, 2, 6. I actually don't know what it's doing now. It's not multiplying something correctly. So, okay, I think this is the prefix. Oh, okay. Do I want to loop again? Yeah, because I need, okay, so this could be the prefix. This would be the suffix. Okay, so also equal 1. And then we'll do another for loop. And, nums count. But I want the reverse of this. Nums count. Reversed. Right. And for this one, we're going to do answers. Hold on, let me just copy and paste. And instead of number, we're going to do the last number. Okay, this should work. No reverse overloads produced sequence. I need to make it a function. Wrong. The suffix is wrong. This is wrong. I'm getting the first two numbers right. What's the case? Do I have any code up here? This always happens to me where instead of deleting, I would just be there, commented out code, and it. So my last number. How do I get 4? Multiplying something. Oh, this is why copy and pasting isn't good. Oh, wow. 24, nice. Okay. Let's look at some solutions. Yeah, pretty much one loop. left and right for index. Result, multiply by the left. This one's pretty dope. Base 100%. Okay, this is almost exactly the same. Linear. Okay, so there, everyone is using suffix and prefix, which I guess they told me to do in the explanation. All right, finito. We'll do one more medium. Increase in triplet, subsequence, or string compression. I don't like anything that has to do with compression, so increase in triplet, subsequence it is. Given an integer array nums, return true if there exists a triplet of indices I, j, k such that I is less than j and j is less than k. Nums, oh my goodness, what does this even mean? So we pass in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is true. Okay, so if there's a sequence where there's 3 numbers that are increasing, why couldn't you just say that? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 would be false because they're all decreasing. Okay, so it has to be 3 numbers in a row. This is returning true. The triplet 3, 4, 5 because nums 3 is 0. Nums 4 is 4. Yep. All right, so our first loop will just be checking if the first number we get, if the second number is greater, if the second number is greater than the first number. Because if it's not, we just want to move on. We don't want to be wasting precious computing power. So that would be like an early return. Okay, so we can do the first loop. I don't even think I'll need a variable for this. Oh, you might do 3 loops. Well, that gave me problems last time. For I and okay. Let's just try. So that would be the first loop. 10. Okay, so in our loop is probably when we want to return the true, because if it passes the first, the second, the third, if it passes the third, it will return true in there. Other than that, we just want it to return false. Like so, okay. And then we want to do another loop for j. Well, it's not going to be j because we're going to add 1 since we're counting. We want the number next to our first loop. So let's do this. And then we want our k loop, which we will use j. So we're gonna need a if check. We're gonna need an if check here. But let me get this one. And then we're probably gonna return true in here. So I, J, K are our indexes, our checkers. Okay. So if it gets to here, if it gets to I, if it gets to K and it's checking J to K, we need to return true, but we need to check if it's greater than, if J is greater than K, or if K is greater than J. If K is greater than K, no, if J is less than or equal to K, that's when we will return true. But we need to, it's not the variables we're checking the nums of J and the nums of K. So that would be the index, so we can keep track of where we are in our array. Okay. So we got the answer. Now we need to go and do the correct thing, because we're only starting at 0 for the first one, so this would be I plus 1, so that we know the next one. So that will make this J plus 1. Okay. And then, so for the first loop, we don't really need to check anything, but for the second loop, we would need to check if the same check we're doing here, if J is less than K, so we need to do if I is less than K, if I is less than J, so that if it's not, we don't continue as well. So if I is less than J, then I want to do this, I think. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Oops. Okay, it's all going bad. I want to do this, copy, cut, then paste my indentation. No, I'm making it worse. Or do I have too many? No. Let's just do this. Oh, this is horrible. It's not that bad. Let me just keep it like this before I confuse myself. All right, so we loop through until we get an instance where the second number is bigger than the first number, and then we check the third number. If the third number is bigger than the second number, if that is the case, then we return true. Outside of that, we return false. But I know this is horrible because of the triple loop. So let's see if it runs first, and then we can refactor. What? +1. Okay, so it passes. I just know the runtime is going to be horrible because of the looping I'm looping. But what is best other than brute force in? Like it doesn't give me any tips or errors on how to improve this. I can use I just have a variable, maybe 2 variables. Okay. What? Oh no. What happened? Upgrade to cloud saving. How do I refactor this to optimize? Time exceeded. Let's go look at discussion. Yeah, I need to get rid of my loops. Turn 3 into 1. It should be specified in the description or at least a test case of IJK. they want us to find. Okay. A better approach would be to use a two-pointer technique that keeps track of the smallest and the second smallest, so for an array, and then iterate through the array. If we find an element that is greater than the second smallest and greater. Okay, I guess that's pretty much the answer. Just use 2 pointers. And that's actually gonna be easier. I mean, that's gonna be pretty much more straightforward than the way that I was trying to go about it. So we can just use 2 variables, smallest, and then second smallest. And then, I mean, we're not going to use 0 and 1. We're going to use we're going to use max. I think there was a problem where we had to find, it wasn't the candy, was it the kids with candy? With the extra candy, so we would find the largest number in the array, and then we were comparing to that. So we can use that for our 2 variables, and then we're still gonna loop, but we're gonna loop instead over nums. So for numbers and and then we're gonna have a if check. We're gonna check if the first number is greater than our smallest, less than our smallest. It's not nums. It's for a number in nums. Then we're gonna check if number is greater than our smallest. If it is, we want to assign our smallest that number. So that's how we'll get our first number. And to get our second number, we have to check if our smallest how, or do we do our smallest if, or we can do else if. Okay, no, we should make it equal to as well. Equal to, so that we can go into the next one. Second smallest, and then if it is, we can assign that to the number, and then else we return true. This should work. If all else fails, we return false. Okay. Wrong. Okay, I need to update this. We just want the max integer. I think this is it. I think this is it. I don't think I think it's more like this. Oh, this was. I actually need to time myself to see if I'm doing it in like 30 minutes. I feel like I took a long time on this one. Even though. Okay, let's see if it passes all. Damn, Daniel. That is great. How can I get to these people? 0 milliseconds. That's crazy. Okay. So yeah, this one we're just keeping track of our small number and our second smallest, and then we're doing a comparison. I think I was doing too much with our loops, because I think every loop would be, let me get into my time complexity bag if I actually understand it. I think one loop would be O N. All right. So that means 3 loops would be O n to the 3rd power, which I don't think they wanted. So reducing it to 1 loop was probably the answer all along. Time complexity. Okay. So we hold the first number we found so far. So that would be the smallest. And then it holds the second. In our loop. And then if we find a 3rd number, that would be our triplet, and then we return true. So if it doesn't find, it's going to return false. So that is done. That's another medium. Okay. So let's go back. How long have we been streaming? 90 minutes, okay. We have one more, but I think I'll save it for tomorrow. String compression. I think this one I'd have to think a little bit. So we'll save it for tomorrow or next day. I don't like normally code in on the weekends, but we will see. So I need to practice. I don't think I did well today explaining my thought process. I'm assuming when it gets harder, I stop talking out loud. I just write. So I need to work on that, which is what the stream and is supposed to help me with. Once again, thank you for everyone that tuned in today. Greatly appreciated. So the last 2 days, we almost completed the array and string. And so the next time I stream, we'll do the last string one and then move on to 2 pointers. I think we can knock out that in a day. All right, thank you once again. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.